I'm sure we got this on that crew. We were on. Roll call.
Tom Bartlesmeyer,
Here.
Jim Hewens,
Here.
Dave Elliott,
Here.
Burkhart, Brian Holt,
Here.
Robert Nelson.
Here. Would you stand for the people to play? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty. I have no comments this evening, and we have no comments from the public. Dave? Yes. Consent agenda?
Yes, I need to make a motion here to add under action discussion items, item E. Consideration of CDL program tractor trailer combination purchases.
The motion has been made to add item E, consideration of CDL program tractor trailer combination purchases. Do we have a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. Julie, would you call for the vote, please?
Elliott,
Yes.
Hewens,
Yes.
Hart, Holt,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Bartlesmeyer.
Yes. Just a moment. Was there something else we needed to add to that?
No, because what you'll do next is take a motion to approve that entire consent agenda, which will include the agenda as amended.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, should we have it under action, discussion, and not consent?
Action discussion, yes. But in the consent agenda, you're approving the agenda.
I got you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I put it in the wrong place.
So,
Obviously, I can do a few, I need to go to a few more meetings.
I can draw you.
You're right, I'm
I can
like,
draw you a picture if you like.
goes, I got you.
Dave, say this,
Sorry,
say this again, where we're gonna do this now, is this?
That's gonna be action discussion item E.
Right,
So I made the motion and we approved to
Right.
add it to the agenda.
correct,
Now, during this next section, part of the consent agenda is to approve the agenda that we just amended.
okay. Thank you. Consent agenda, approval of agenda, approval of minutes of previous meetings, approval of treasurer's report, bills and claims, approval of personnel actions. Additions are Evelyn Arvalo, IDRC project specialist, effective February 15th, 2023. Shelley Brennan, nursing administrative assistant, effective February 20th, 2023. Separations, Rebecca Clay, trio database manager, effective January 27th, 2023. Diego Calderon, IAMEP regional recruiter, effective February 20th, 2023. Transfers, Chris Mangarelli from vice president of workforce development to C Tech director, effective January 25th, 2023. And D, consideration of CDL program tractor trailer combination purchases. Is that right time, right space?
Not really, but it's okay.
Okay. Pardon? With item E.
It's
Well,
actually-
and again,
That's,
Fits
again,
under
it
that
goes under
A.
the first thing you said, approve agenda. So we don't have to say anything more about it because we voted to amend the agenda.
okay,
Now we're
no, we're
going
just
to
approving
approve
the agenda, okay.
Agenda.
Okay. So this will be done. Okay, later, the consideration, that's okay. Okay, it is recommended that the consent agenda items be approved as presented. Is there any discussion? Okay, it's been moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Julie, would you call for the vote, please?
Hewens,
Yes.
Hart, Holt,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Bartlesmeyer,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Anybody have a page number for me?
55.
Okay. Item A. For this is action discussion items. Item A, consideration of class and miscellaneous fees. This year, to aid in the opening of enrollment, the business office is presenting the consideration of recommended fees in 2 months, February and March, rather than as in years past of all in March. This month, February, we have attached the recommendations for class-related fees and miscellaneous fees. The costs for each have been reviewed and the quotes requested by the directors to aid in determining recommended costs. In March, the recommendations for tuition and fees, dorm costs, and meal costs will be presented. Where program or other fees reflect proposed adjustments from the current fee, an explanation for the change has been provided. Anybody want to comment on this?
This would be mine.
Okay, Julie.
We, every year, as stated in the narrative, we do review the cost and base our fees upon what it costs us for these particular programs. So, you know, like John Deere, Harley, nursing, cosmetology, all of those go through their supplies that are needed to teach students, and that's what our fees are based on, is the cost of that. It's not an increase. If anything, you know, if I come out to $422, we round it up to $425 just to make it easy, money wise to track and that type of thing. So I've added some comments on there. You guys have any particular questions about? Any of them?
Well, we're not really changing a whole but it's just to make it more convenient. Is that what I'm getting?
It's not really more convenient, it's just to bill out for what it costs us to supply the needs for that class. You know, cosmetology has a lot of costs related to perms, nails, that type of thing, and so that is what it, and blow dryers and everything else that is in that kit that they order. And the lab supplies that they have on there. So, yes, there are some changes. Cosmetology has some, nursing, don't think that went up, but EMT and allied health, they have a little bit of change. The bookstore has some change in their lab kits because we're changing to an access code, adding an access code for the class.
I see welding's up.
Welding is up, basically because of supplies. Carpentry's up. Several of those programs are up, basically because the construction field is one of the fields that's suffering a big increase.
Right.
I can tell you that the Tech Ed Authority and the Board of Regents has been looking particularly at those program fees, which is what we're talking about, and making sure that they accurately reflect exactly what the student is getting. So like you'll notice under nursing, where it says the EMT beginner lab fees went from $295 to $305. That's the actual cost that we pay for it and pass
Right.
that along to students. So,
Right.
so they did. One of the things that the Board of Regents was interested in as how it relates to SB 155 fees are these fees. Like, are you charging students what you're really what they're really having to pay for it? Or are you charging more and making money on it? In some cases, we were charging less and supplementing it. And then there were a couple of cases where we had to bring it down last year. I can't remember what those two cases were, but you'll notice like some of them, it just happens to be like the practical skills examination. You know, what does that actually cost? So hopefully these fees, they directly reflect what the student pays.
Pays and issues and
So basically, they're just reimbursing us for what we had to pay for that.
Right.
Like one of them that has to be run as a background check for the students. So how much does that cost?
Can you explain the, adding the access code? But,
On those biology books, I got
Yeah.
it back there. That was that,
56.
is that it? That
56,
was a
yeah.
huge cost increase I saw.
yeah, it's like 90.
yeah, it's up quite a bit. I didn't know what
$90.
the access code was for.
Well, I haven't,
It went from 30 to 120, 25 to 120.
yeah, $90 for an access code.
And that's, we've switched textbook suppliers and updated our textbook, and that's the cost. Because we were just basically supplementing, the way I understand it, for the online sections, because this is just online sections. The fee that we had was basically to congregate a bunch of little supplies and send it to them, and now it's all housed online.
Yeah.
So it's,
So is there a cost savings in other areas that kind of offset that?
Textbook.
Because where they
that,
consolidated
yeah,
that?
I believe, and Julie can correct me if I'm wrong, that the textbook is included
Yeah,
with that.
I'm not sure about that, Adam. I just,
that clears up the fog in my mind. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any more? Are there any more questions or discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded. Julie, would you call for the vote, please?
Hart. Holt.
Yes.
Nelson.
yes.
Bartlesmeyer.
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Felix.
Yes.
Item B, consideration of garrison restoration bids. During the freezing temperature over the semester break, Fort Scott Community College had 4 apartments at Garrison Apartments that experienced severe damage due to frozen water lines. After consulting with the insurance adjuster, their recommendation was to first get a team in for remediation immediately, and then begin the restoration process by finding a contractor to restore. Remediation has been completed by Service Master. Fscc published in the Fort Scott Tribune requesting contractors to present a proposal after having reviewed the damage and list of needed repairs with Jared Keelan. 3 contractors submitted a bid. The summary and comparison of each contractor's bid is presented in the following pages for your review. Recommendation: having reviewed, presented the list of needed repairs and walked through the apartments with each contractor. Administration recommends the board approve the bid from TM Home Improvement upon successful submittal of performance bond and certificate of liability insurance. Jared.
Yes, I would like to kind of draw back a little bit on that, though, due to some verbiage and some wording. If you look through that bid and stuff, it's kind of hard to read, whereas the higher bid there that I think come from Bowen, I think I can read it like a book, if it makes sense to you. I had some questions and concerns up front with them, and I didn't get them all answered the day of whenever we decided. And so going back through and rereading, I really like to put my faith in the one that I can read out and say, this is my part, this is your part. Because otherwise, I think it could get into some unknowns.
Now, in other words, you're saying the TM bid, you're not real.
And I'll be upfront with you and tell you, you know, that there may have been concerns about timing on that. And with contractors and getting contractors in to finish on the
Right.
deadline, so that was probably my one drawback, the biggest piece of it, is not being able to get our kit back in by the July 31st deadline.
Okay, but backing up, you are recommending which one then?
It'd be the, what's
Bowen.
Bowen, does that have, it should have a name on it, may not be, that, is that what it says?
Okay, I found it.
Construction.
So according to the bid summary, they're not including the flooring, so that's an additional cost. on
Yes.
top.
Yes, and that's the only additional with that one. Now, the others were somewhat harder to read, and that's why I kind of pulled back a little bit on those and then got some more information, because he was trying to do the best job possible, and I have the utmost feeling that I guarantee he could do it, but I think it was I've got 4 days to get this into you kind of deal, and don't know with some of the other conversations that we had, and I would hate to get us in a situation to where all of a sudden we're calling this guy, we're calling that guy, and I can't get this in here.
How does the bid compare to the insurance company reimbursement on this?
I have no clue, to be honest.
Julie, what's the
Insurance. Is saying they'll accept whatever we do. The building is insured up to. $675,000, I believe that's what it is, which I took it and divided it by 10 apartments and multiplied it by 4, and it's a roughly 300,000 that they will cover. That was just my estimate. We do have a $50,000 deductible on it, which basically was almost met by Service Master. Their work was over $40,000. So I think Bowen would still come in under that
Okay,
and leave us a little room there, but
I know, I had a little conversation with Bowen because he was trying to pinpoint some of these things down, and a lot of things weren't clear. But I think he's pretty thorough.
He was very thorough when he went through it.
Yeah.
Him and I met several times. As a matter of fact, I ended up giving him the key. That's how many times he wanted to come in to visit with different contractors. So I'm pretty confident that he could do
He
it.
was just concerned that other contractors that was looking at this wasn't as thorough as he was.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know that they were. I don't know that they weren't, but we all
Yeah.
did the same walkthrough. But I think he picked and picked and picked and did a really good job, and just be upfront. So
Yeah.
I thought he did a really good job at going through it and stuff, because he found things that I would have never even thought about, such as the ceiling fan boxes, which would mean that each room that's in there probably needs the ceiling fan boxes updated. And so he said, well, heck, we put that in there too, and I was like, that's something you could do if you.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I agree with you.
but I thought he did a really good job, and he was one of my top picks out of all of them anyway, and I thought just looking at it and after reading through the rest of them, it looked a little rushed, and I'm not saying, again, if they had more time, they probably would have done a thorough job as well, but at the same time, I thought his was, you could read it like a book when it was done of, I understand this is my part, this is your part, this is what you're taking care of, and this is all I need.
Does he also have, is he bonded and have liability?
He is in the process of bonding and will have bond for us as soon as, and I don't think it's needed up front of mine.
I think on his, he was automatically bonded for the insurance company, but
That's so.
Okay,
I think he's bonded already. I can't remember what.
but again, I just, want to say that I think the other two contractors are wonderful as well, but I think maybe. Again, didn't have time or didn't make time to do as thorough a job where I can look at his deal and read it like a book and say, okay, this is where I'm at with him. Where
Yeah, it says he's pre-approved by Iowa Insurance.
I can say personally, since he just spent about 7 months in my house, that he's very, very thorough. And pays attention to detail.
I liked it because he did, he opened my eyes, things that I was like, okay, because we thought we'd move the sink off of that wall and yeah, well, it come out and we couldn't put a 2 well there, we could do a 1, but not 2.
It is. It'd be helpful to know some of the difference between the number, I mean, because it's a big difference.
So like with one of them, if you look down through there, you see that there's no HVAC on there. There's, and that could go up or do 10, 15, 20. We don't have,
Sure,
okay,
yep.
he has his on there.
Okay.
Okay, there's no flooring on that one as well.
Mhm.
And really, there's no electric on one of them either. I mean, it's just, well, I'll replace the broken outlet that I myself could do that piece of it. Whereas he's gonna have a guy come in, because I know for a fact that I get an electric line in there and I showed each one of them that, hey, look, I had to cut the floor out and put the captive pipe. He say, that's no worries, we'll get a contractor, he'll know exactly how to put it back together. So we don't have to worry about who's gonna do the electric work. We know they'll all be certified in each area.
Now, the flooring bid, there were Fscc and Runnings, and you've got the numbers listed here under Bowen's. Is that 255,000,
Yes, with the flooring,
That's
which
with-
would be
Okay,
the running flooring. bid.
okay. Okay,
I know that's a lot to think about in a short amount of time, but after looking at it and stuff, I feel probably more comfortable, I guess, telling you all that I believe this one is probably the better one.
that's what we like about you being able to do that.
Well, sure, John, I'm just trying to do the best I can.
Sure.
And I think that's the way that I would probably want to go if it was at my house.
Okay. Any more discussion or questions? Then, do I hear a motion to approve Bowen Construction for the rehab or repair work at Garrison?
What's he planning to start?
Probably as soon as we can get him in there. Yeah, I think that was his
Which would
idea.
be after it's approved or?
As soon as it'll be approved, then I will call him tomorrow or whoever. Or whoever y'all decide.
By 7 o'clock this evening. I'm kidding.
I better go with the answer because he called the service on late name is Jared. I know you're getting tired of answering a phone call. I said, no, sir, you're not bothering me a bit. Let's have it.
I'll move, we approve Bowen Construction.
So it's been moved and seconded. Julie, would you please call for the vote?
Nelson,
Yes.
Bartlesmeyer,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Fewens,
Yes.
Hart, Holt,
Yes.
Now, item C.
Thank you.
Thank you, Derek.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Approval of property disposal. I always call them saloon chairs, but I think it's salon chairs.
Yeah, that's a different.
Oh,
I don't know if it matters, but in that where Redix is automatically assumed in that bid as the low.
That is
Since it
part
was
of
a total.
the subtotal at the bottom. Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
that's what I asked of Jared, if that was.
Oh, I knew you said, okay.
Okay.
I got
I think that's what I meant.
you. Okay, yes.
Okay. We are seeking approval to dispose of salon chairs that have been taken out of service and replaced by new chairs. Maintenance has reviewed in the past to repair, which I don't know how to read this thing. Maintenance has reviewed in the past to repair,
Sorry.
which isn't possible, and the replacement of the seat pump is expensive. We do have one student who would like to purchase one, and we recommend she be allowed to, the remaining chairs, if no one else expresses interest, dispose of. The recommendation, it is recommended that the salon chairs be disposed of, allowing students to purchase if they would like, and then taking to the landfill or metal salvage the remainder. Discussion.
I mean, we approve it.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Julie, would you call for the vote? It was Brian and then Jim. Okay.
Holt,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Bartlesmeyer,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes, if we can get enough money to pay, no, I'm kidding.
Hewens,
Yes.
Hart.
Okay, item D, approval of property disposal, print shop equipment. We are seeking approval to dispose of 3 pieces of equipment from the print shop. This equipment is old and unused, and the space could be used for other needs. No replacements will be needed. Wardcraft has expressed interest in the presses for parts. Attached is the disposal form listing each piece of equipment. It is recommended that the printing presses be disposed of. Our first choice would be these are given to Wardcraft as they are part of the local community. Discussion.
Move we approve it.
Thank you.
The only,
Oh,
sorry, it's not a discussion. The only thing I would have to say is that Jared Dorsey, who does that, is doing an amazing job for us. And so where those pieces of equipment were, he has made him sort of a backdrop and a, what do you call this? Stage studio. And so we're needing pictures of all of you. So if he hasn't gotten in contact with you, he will do it in the evenings or whenever, but we need headshots of each of you. And so it would be up there in his print shop.
why?
Why do we want a headshot of you?
At the print shop, I mean.
So we can throw darts at.
Oh, I understand. I do it. I don't think you'll have problem getting a line of me.
No. We need pictures of the board members.
Okay.
Has he contacted you? And I think preach it. Preach it.
I don't think anybody's.
I am
Bagging me, so. They're gonna use my picture to chase the vermin away. I think they're probably. Okay. Sorry, any more discussion?
So this is a little bit out of order, but is there a reason why, if we're gonna give Wordcraft the printing presses, why we would not give the salon chairs to students that want?
Oh, that's a good question. It's an excellent question. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, we're gonna throw the things.
We're gonna dispose of them. Oh, boy.
Certain way, anyway, why charge the kid for them?
That's a good point. I like that. Can we back up on that? We have to vote, I guess. Back up. I think that's a good point.
I think we can sell them to them and Julie can set the cost at 62 cents
Or $1 or something.
whatever. Yeah, it's up to her to
Cost
say-
is zero.
decide what, but if we're gonna give those to Wordcraft, we ought to give those.
Yeah.
salon chairs.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done being out of word. Thank you.
Is that a promise or a threat? Okay. Do we want to just let Julie handle that then with
I don't care.
Okay.
You know, maintenance has tried to repair those salon chairs in the past and they're not.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably, yeah.
So I really felt kind of bad charging the student $75 because unless her dad
Is
is.
that what we were gonna charge? So
That's what she told us she would give.
No, I didn't even know that it was on there until I saw the board
Yeah,
give it away.
I think
I think it was way it's fine.
Do we, do we need to go back and redo this or just? amend
we'll
it?
set the cost at $0.
We're. Yeah,
Okay.
is that to set the price, and if she thinks they're worth nothing, that's what we charge.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. Moving on. Sorry.
Yeah,
No, I thank you. I think that's very appropriate.
Yeah, she made charges to take them.
Now, item D, the recommended the printing presses be disposed of. Any discussion? We'll entertain a motion.
We already
Have you guys-
Have we done that
Yes.
yet?
You got both.
I was
We
not.
just need to vote.
Okay, Julie, would you call for the vote?
Bartlesmeyer,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Hewens,
Yes.
Hart, Holt,
yes,
Nelson.
Item E, consideration of CDL program tractor trailer combination purchase. Currently, we have one truck for the CDL program, a long waiting list, and we have class starting in February 22nd. Two additional trucks would allow us to start another class and have a second truck as a backup in case of a mechanical issue with our current truck. The target total cost for acquiring two tractors and two trailers would be $219,500. Additional funds may be needed to transport the vehicles to purchase the vehicles and drive them to Fort Scott Community College, although the above cost is based on the highest priced vehicles that were found in the sample vehicle list. Local vehicles that fit the requirements would be considered first to decrease the cost of travel. As we previously experienced, identified vehicles are no longer available by the time the board approval has been obtained. To avoid the delay in time and losing opportunities to purchase trucks and trailers that meet the program parameters, we are seeking approval to spend up to $220,000 for the purchase of two trucks and trailers as soon as possible after the RFPs are open. Examples of trucks and trailers that meet the program specifications follow. Funds for these expenses are covered by the congressionally directed grant. It is recommended the board approve the authority to purchase two tractors and trailers meeting the below specifications for an amount not to exceed $220,000 as soon as possible after bids are open.
Can I say it?
Please.
On this one, I had emailed you guys on Friday and said we weren't gonna spend this much money, but when I got to thinking about it over the weekend. The way the congressionally directed grant was written and turned in was that it was $385,000 for three trucks and three trailers. I hate to vary from that too much because we still will have to report on that grant, and so that first. Sort of proposal that I sent you on Friday was only, I think, 97,000 for two trucks and two trailers, but I think that. When we look at this, we need to spend approximately 2/3 of that congressionally directed grant if we're going to buy two trucks and two trailers. And like I said, I don't want to get us into trouble by buying something in addition to the three trucks and trailers that we actually wrote the congressionally directed grant for. It's a little bit different kind of a grant because it's an ask, it's written into legislation, and John had a good question. He said, well, what's the guarantee you're gonna get the money? Well, it's actually written into that omnibus bill. So this is the institution, this is what they get. So, you know, it is legislated. But it's kind of like the ARPA money that we got. The criteria on the front end really aren't there, but on the back end, you still have to meet. If that makes any sense, what you wrote in the grant. And so I didn't want to deviate from that too much, and only spending $97,000 on two trucks and two trailers would, I think, deviate too much from the grant and leave me in a pickle when we have to write the narrative and do the backup on it. So that's why Chris went out today and I said, no, I think we're gonna need to look at some more trucks that have fewer miles and the little different that kind of. So that's the difference if you're wondering, because I know what I sent you last Friday is a little different. But I'm asking you today.
So are we giving Chris a little bit of leeway as to?
That what
handle
we're
this?
asking for is prior approval to purchase the trucks, so we can go ahead and get them purchased and move forward with the CDL program. I really think it's detrimental to the program to continue to wait to get the trucks. We have, as we said, big waiting list, all kinds of people interested, and we just need to get moving on.
I
But
We have a long waiting list, it says.
Without even advertising.
Without advertising.
I might make a comment. I was at CTEC a week ago, talking to Chris on something else, and he was showing me his problem of looking, finding these trucks. I mean, he has a website he goes to and tracks these down, really investigates them. But by the time he makes that commitment or tries to make a commitment, that truck is gone.
Yeah.
So that's the reason you're
He's
doing
done-
this, so
He's just done Lomans, as they say, work on this.
yeah,
I mean,
he's
he
done
really
a
worked on it.
tremendous amount of work locating these trucks.
I understand
Very knowledgeable.
the time to buy it is now when
Yeah.
you get the chance to.
Yeah, well, he's really he really goes through these trucks.
Sure.
As an example, one truck he was saying that has a Caterpillar engine. But if something happens, that Caterpillar engine where you have to repair, it's gonna cost $7,000 more than a different truck. So he was looking at, we're gonna have to repair these probably, so he was looking at repair cost also.
Mhm. No, I think Chris does a great job with this.
Oh,
so, Yeah.
I have a lot of faith in him.
I do too. Any more discussion? Entertain a motion,
So moved.
Second.
moved and seconded. I want to read this one more time. It is recommended that the board approve the authority to purchase 2 tractors and 2 trailers. Meeting the below specifications for amount not to exceed $220,000 as soon as possible after bids are open. It has been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? Julie, would you call for the vote, please?
Elliott,
Yes.
Hewens,
Yes.
Hart, Holt,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yeah.
Did you say Arnold? Yes. Administrative updates. Adam?
Okay, so we've got several things going on in our office. Just to kind of go through, one is we are putting together our general education core. So the 34 to 35 hours that we're going to be able to transfer to any state institution, and trying to determine, we're kind of stuck on a couple of things right now. Do we consider performance classes like band, choir, and that sort of thing as a meeting the arts and humanities bucket requirement? We've reached out to other institutions, and it's about half and half in the state right now. So, and then what is our institutionally designated items? So what, as an institution, are we going to require from students? With that, we are working on math pathways and creating a new class in quantitative reasoning. And I appreciate that everything Savannah and Deanne have done in researching that. We've got a tentative course description right now, and the outcomes are written for the class, and it's just a matter of moving that forward. And then we are updating our placement policies as well. So if a student comes in with a grade point average, high school GPA of a 3.0 or higher per se, we're trying to get it finalized this week, then they will automatically go into college level classes and not be required to take developmental education. So those are the primary things we're working on: updating the cosmetology handbook and just getting ready for the schedule to be released here in about 2.5 weeks for the fall. And we'll have fall and winter intercession schedule out in the week before spring break. So, and that's a very brief update. Chris and I guess before our next board meeting, we'll go to Arizona to a innovations conference, and Perkins Funds take care of all of that. And we're presenting on the link between secondary institutions, post-secondary institutions, and business and industry. And then give that presentation at a conference in Arizona over spring break. So, okay, there's our update. Or I guess my update.
Julie?
Sure. You can see financial aid basically is working on awards for the spring semester. And one of the last things that we're trying to wind up is acceptance of COVID awards. By the students for fall at intercession, we have about $25,000 that's still. We need students to accept up to $25,000. We have 25,000 left to spend, and so we're trying to follow up with all those students and get that done and out the door. Refunds started this week. This is our first week of refunds, so that's keeping the financial aid and the business office busy. Maintenance, they've been kind of busy. They've been pouring a sidewalk for handicap entrance over on the east side of Bailey, I think it is, yes. And then they also are preparing the concrete pad back here for the air conditioner for Arnold Arena, so they've worked on that. Along with moving the cafeteria to the 4-H building and that type of thing, it's kept them pretty busy and stabilizing, working on the heat in Bailey Hall. And that type of thing. The business office, we got all our tax forms that are required to go out by January 31st out, so 1099s are mailed and out, and
I would ask Jared.
1098Ts are out, and so that's done. Trying to finish, we did work on part of the fee recommendation, so thank you for reviewing that this month, and then also preparing budget to be ready for input. And suggestions by campus-wide employees and directors. IT has tons of things going on too. They've done some work out at the baseball field. Some John Deere laptop purchase stuff. Miami County, some of their network systems stuff is completed. I think some of the stuff in the open projects, they are done, like I think Luke can tell me or not, but the Arnold Arena network is done, I believe, yeah. They've done some SharePoint requests, that seems to be the multiple requests for that. I know I've requested some, I think Tom, the foundation has, and so they're doing some of that type of thing. And trying to get that all caught up and just streamline us a little more. So any questions?
How is the heating and air for the Arnold Arena coming along?
They started putting in ductwork last week. We took down a heater. I know we had to take down one heater in order to run ductwork on the west side. And so they have begun it, and then it will come down to waiting on the unit to come in that sets outside. But we should be on track. Do you know?
From what I know, they're taking all the gas pipes out. They've taken all the old heaters out, replaced them over by the doors. They poured all the concrete. They were working on that pretty hard last week.
Yeah,
It took them like 2 to 3 days by the time they got everything in. But yeah, they've done a ton of work.
yeah.
They put all the duct work in. We're just waiting for the AC unit to go, so then we can connect it to the ductwork and should be good to go.
Well, I know there was a question about the availability of the units or whatever you want to call them. So I just, and that there was a time frame that we
Yeah.
needed to.
We
Yeah, this-
met the time frame far as ordering it, and the last I knew, we're still on track to have it in and ready to go before volleyball and.
Yeah,
some
when I talked to him, he said it would be done by July-ish, 5th, 6th, somewhere around there. Before volleyball comes in for preseason.
What was the time frame for that? The money had to be spent by a certain
It
date.
has to be spent by June 30, but we got something from the feds the other day about a 90-day extension.
Okay. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I was concerned
Okay, I
about.
wasn't catching that, yeah,
But I didn't want to get.
I forwarded it to Julie and.
yeah,
I
I've
think-
registered for the
Yeah.
webinar and
The
Ralph
and
has,
Ralph
so
did
we
too,
should
so.
be.
Good.
Yeah.
I
Give
was,
us a little more time to spend the
yeah,
money. We also may end up having to need that extension on those ARPA funds. Because the ARPA funds are what we got through the state to buy those heavy equipment simulators. We should get half of the money here in the next couple weeks, because we finally got that approved. And then we'll have to show where we made the matched spend on that half, and then with the other half, but I think it's gonna be hard to get that one in and spent by June 30, because we're just now getting the first half,
mhm.
so.
But you said there may be an extension.
Well, I think everybody would
Yeah.
pretty much qualify. Yeah, I think we should get a 90-day extension.
I mean, those things always bother me when you've got a time frame and it's not.
Yeah, you
spent.
don't
I just-
wanna give up money because you can get it spent in time. So
Yeah, that's something that just.
everybody's really struggling with this COVID money getting it spent in the
Okay.
appropriate amount of time. It's some of the back end work, you know, you have to do, plus with supply chain,
Yeah,
disruptions and stuff, it's hard to, just like with this stuff, it's hard to meet those timelines.
well, that was my concern. Okay.
And contractors for HVAC have been hard to come by, because everybody's doing this, because you get qualified for COVID money, so everybody's redoing their HVAC.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julie. Luke.
I just wanted to show you guys, the good news is we've won a lot of games this past weekend. Rodeo got first place as well. At K-State, the men's team, they won, did a great job.
Thank you.
So, like I said, we went 4-0 in softball so far, really good. They beat Kirkwood, they were ranked number 4 in the country. They were on the D1 side, we're on the D2 side of softball. So it was a super good win, and KCK got swept by them today, so that's even better of a win for us.
Good.
Rodeo did well. Men and women's track both won the east side. Men's won the actual region as well by half a point. It was 116.5 to 117.
It still goes in the double.
Oh, yeah, it's still down here.
Yeah.
So it was a great weekend overall. If you have track questions, ask Tom Looks. I don't know anything about it. To be honest with you.
It's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
Within our region, there's so many teams in the NJCAA. There's probably 160 of them.
I think, yeah, about
And
160.
7 of the top 15 teams in the country are in our region.
Yeah.
And for us to be able to go and win the region title is a huge accomplishment.
Bill was very excited. And Jeff was very excited.
That's good.
So down to the bad news, the floor. You guys can see pictures of the floor. I printed them off. There's big gaps. There's some chunks done as well. That's actually on the free throw line, or right near the free throw line. The black, this one. That's right on the line of the free throw line. We had a great idea. Tom had a great idea, but it got halted by asbestos and water damage and everything else from mercury. From the last time they dug it up. We replaced it, which is great. It was good, but with the no AC, so there's difference between floating floors and actual hardwood floors. When we have hardwood, or this is a floating floor, it expands obviously, especially with the moisture and everything else that we've had in there. So this is what happened. We tried to get it fixed, and they put replacement wood. They couldn't tear up the floor basically because of the metal boxes around the gym. Around the gym floor, they would have to take the whole thing apart to replace it apart. Because it's a floating floor, and they would have to disconnect everything and then put it all back together. That's why we couldn't replace these chunks this summer. They put a good primer on it. It looked really pretty. It was good. But this is why I'm going to start an RFP and see if we can get a new floor. I've talked to some fundraising people. We've talked to Key. We've talked to a few other ones that are potentially going to donate some good money so we can put their logo and everything on the floors. We have some private donations that we've already not secured yet, but in the talks with. So we might be able to do this potentially on our own. Just from athletics, from fundraising. Is my goal, and not trying to have to touch budget or anything else. That's my goal. We do have some good private donors that are. Blake has talked to a few people, because he's really good at that, Coach Cochran. He's been talking to people, Chelsea's been talking to people. I've been kind of bringing in everyone that uses the gym floor, so cheer and dance, women's basketball, men's basketball, and volleyball as well. I had a meeting with them, we talked about fundraising, talked about all this. For example, there's some dangerous parts, so if you look in there, there's a couple of chunks that are sticking up. We had a volleyball girl slice her arm basically from elbow to wrist. Mostly on the floor, about 60% of the game diving. On the floor, we've had some basketball people cut themselves as well. We also we're not really ADA compliant with how the floor sits because of the bleachers and that metal piece. There's supposed to be enough room to put a wheelchair in front of the black bars on either end of the bleachers. And we don't have that as well, because it would be sitting at an angle, part on the wood floor and part on the concrete, part on the silver piece. Just to talk about, with this addition, we'd be able to generate more revenue by having side courts, which allow for more tournaments of basketball and volleyball. More teams can practice at once, more camps due to a larger area. It will also help in the future as well for camps and everything else, and practice times, and because we only have one gym and 4 people use it at once. So if we go to the floor like Tom's original plan, that's what it would do. It would create a lot more room, a lot more area. That we wouldn't have the metal piece that everyone trips on when they come in with wedges. Because we've had a couple spills this year of people coming in and falling on the floor as well. Because of the metal piece that's wrapped around the court. That we've had to help lift up, but everyone's been fine, no injuries.
Okay, so
Sorry, that was kind of a ramble.
I remember a couple of years ago, I took a tour of the floor, whatever, and they were removing, some old stuff and all that. And it just kind of bothers me that this is happening so soon after that. I guess it's been 4 years, maybe. I think, did we come out with that? 4 or 5? Are we going to try to do something that is more durable? Is that the word I want to use? Or
Yeah, we're gonna try to do an actual hardwood and not a floating floor, so it's all connected. So it's not movable because of the floor to floor, so it wouldn't expand, it wouldn't do any, I mean, it would still expand because it's wood. But it's not gonna be as big of gaps and everything else, it will all, with the AC, it's gonna help as well. Kind of
climate control.
Yes, climate
Right.
The big problem is the climate control. Let me,
I understand that, yeah.
what happened last time was we did plan on going wall to wall. However, when we tore out the old floor, you may recall that all of a sudden we had all these issues with water. Then they said, so that we had them come in and test, and they said, all right, you have mercury, which has to be remediated. You also have asbestos since now we're taking it up, we have to, due to the water, we have to scrape up whatever was underneath that, which was a tile product, I believe, that had asbestos in it. So due to all the remediation, it ran the cost incredibly, you may remember.
Yep.
And so what happened was we had to abandon the idea of the wall-to-wall floor, which is what we had originally gotten, because that's what we had the money for, and go with this floating floor, which at the time, we thought it was durable. I mean, we had no idea. As a matter of fact, I told Luke, you sprang this on me 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
He's like, well, I got some bad news. But, it just is what it is. At the time that we did that project, you may recall that we also put in new bleachers because the bleachers were in very bad shape. We had ADA issues with them. And so it is quite unfortunate. I completely agree that, we had hoped that this would last, but it wasn't exactly what it had seemed. unfortunately, and we did check, there is no insurance or guarantees that would have gone for this. It was a used floor when we bought it. We brought it in from, I can't recall where. Dallas.
I called Acme, when I first got here before I did the floor this summer. To resurface it and refinish it, and they told me that there was no warranty because it was a used floor. And I guess like from there's no insurance and everything else with it.
Going wall to wall though will keep it intact. I mean, it would now. Like you said, not only the climate control, but the weight has caused it to spread. And I agree that metal piece worries me to death. You can't even hardly walk in there.
It's kind of like curbing or something around.
Yeah,
It's keeping the floor in because it's a floating floor.
Right.
So they haven't, it's a border.
it was our compromise.
So what about the issues with the asbestos and,
Well, it was already fixed, so,
okay, so
so
it
if
was,
we have that issue again, I don't know.
Yeah.
it was fixed.
Well, this is what I told Jared, it is as dry as it's been. If there's water under that floor now, we got some big problems with the entire building. Jared and I just discussed this 2 weeks ago. I think you were in there. Luke. I said, because even though we've had some rain lately, I mean, we've been in a drought that's pretty unprecedented. And so if we've got water sitting under there, then we've got some bigger issues.
And how they did.
That was, the water was the primary issue, bringing it to the surface somehow with the mercury.
So we had, when we tore up that floor, you know, like those old, like vinyl plastic gym floors, the rubber feeling, that's what it was. And in spots that were
Like that
huge,
bubbles or
it
something.
was bubbles about 4 inches high.
Underneath the wood
yeah,
floor that was under there, so it's on top of that.
Right, and so what they did is they came in and they filled all of those as deep as they could, sawed down and filled them, and then put a sealant layer over the top of it.
We had to replace the concrete in some.
Yeah,
It
and
was
they
that
had
bad.
to, they had
under
to
there.
level it out, because when you tear that stuff out, it left a divot. And the floor itself wasn't level, that they found out, and so when they were having to pour all this stuff. They need to pour concrete first to bring up one side of it, so then when they poured the leveling agent, it actually leveled instead of went all to one side. It was a nightmare, the project, but honestly, it would be a nightmare if they tried to do it right now, that remediation that had to happen. With the mercury and the asbestos and all that type of stuff would have had to happen regardless. And so they did fix it, hopefully when they tear up this floor, it will not have big bubbles and stuff underneath it, but there's only one way to find out.
It's a concrete base now and it was filled with fillers. It should be fine. I say should be,
So just to give you a heads up, like the referees haven't officially said anything. But they definitely look at the floor, they look at the lighting in our gym, they look at other things that
lighting change too.
they haven't called the game yet, but the volleyball they may, because they're more on the floor. I'm just letting you guys know that they haven't officially said anything to me, but they give me looks and kind of look at the floor and look at cracks and then look at me and. Yeah, this is what it is. And honestly, the floor to floor, so one of the games, just for example, with the metal, we actually had to move our seats back for the benches. Because it wasn't floor to floor. So I think you were at that game, we had to move the benches back. At one of the games as well. Because they were too close to the coach's line and the referee said I didn't want to step on the silver part and get rolled ankle or whatever. So it made me move both benches back in the middle of the game.
So you're in the process of contacting a lot of people and.
I want to bring it to your guys' attention first, and then I was going to start it.
Yeah,
We believe it's about 100,000.
About 100 to 108. That was the old price of the floor to floor.
Given you get in there and everything works the way.
Yes,
that's in a perfect.
world.
Yeah, perfect.
I mean, with inflation over the last 3 years, I would say probably 120, 125, most likely we go floor to floor. I mean, the big parts are the paintings are what take a lot of the money. Because we need the NGCA logos, we need the FS logo, we need the greyhounds on each side or hounds on each side, whatever we're gonna decide to put. We don't need anything on the side, but it does look better.
We do have to go with the NJCAA.
We have to, yeah, it's a legal.
So would this floor be warranted or something like that, if, once you get it installed?
Usually if you get a brand new floor, it's usually a 10-year warranty. I talked to Jake Ripple today and he was at Dodge City and they just got their floor redone, resurfaced. And they said it was a 10-year warranty with the people that they use from Coffeyville.
Oh, they use for state maintenance.
Are you like counting on using that company then, or?
No, I was just talking to him.
Oh.
He mentioned something about one of his renovations that he did and I asked him who he used, just so I could start getting ideas.
Okay,
I mean, Acme is the one that put it in before. They weren't too helpful.
We weren't, yeah. we
They weren't too helpful from what Tom said, but it's just. So, I'm just gathering ideas. I would hate to get a game called because of the floor.
is it gonna be a problem for the rest of this year?
No, we only have, we have 2 more home games. We have March 1st, and then we have most likely, knock on wood, if we do okay the rest of the season, we'll host a home playoff game on March 4th. For men's basketball.
Okay.
But I just wanted to bring it to your attention because I know it's going to take a couple weeks to do the RFP and keep it out there and get everything ready. But if we don't do it soon, we won't have a home court for next fall.
Do you need something like us to say, go ahead and start getting some numbers, or you've already doing that?
Doing it unofficially.
This is more just kind of giving you a heads up. What we'll do is when we get ready to budget, we'll budget for it the next fiscal year. We're hoping that, let's say we budget 100,000, that will be well over what we need. And, you know, if they come in and they actually fundraise the entire amount, then, you know, we just won't have that money to spend. But basically, we're to the point and we wanted you to know that we have to do
We're
it.
gonna have to do something.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, like I said, because we just did it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
Sorry for the bad news.
Gosh, good, thanks.
There was good news and bad news. with that, so I like to bring
Thank
all-
I've got a pretty lengthy report in there. The only updates that I have is Luke and Julie and I will be tomorrow and the next day in 7 hours per day of Title IX training through Fscc, which is a nationwide Title IX training organization. And so we'll be doing that and making adjustments to our policies and whatnot when we find out what we do wrong here. But other than that, I don't think I have any other additions, but I stand for any questions you guys might have.
When and where does this happen?
The training in the boardroom. You want to join
You
us?
wanna come?
I just was, questioning, but it's happening, it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's online. Fscc does have.
Oh, well, okay, okay.
Fscc does have a conference if they, I know it's here, and it's free, but it is an extraordinary amount of money per person to be able to put people through the training.
Yeah.
You're doing an 8-hour webinar?
7 back-to-back days, so 7 hours one day, 7 hours the next.
I am so sorry.
They'll be fine. They are. Quit your whining, you're gonna be fine. You wanna go to Orlando? No.
Enjoy the boards.
I am gonna put Peter.
Good, it's all be hot and.
When it says you get a 6% reply rate, I don't know how that, is that good?
That's kind of down, from what we've seen in the past. We try to shoot for about 15 to 20.
Does it get better as the semester goes on?
Usually, yeah, because they start to, whether it ends up being their parents logging on and look and see, you better respond to these people, or if you know, they just get more concerned as the semester goes on about their work. I found that college students, and I probably did this too, they have a sense of urgency when it's important to them. And so in January, you tell them you need to start going to class, they got 4 or 5 months to be able to catch up. But as it gets closer to crunch time, they start to respond a little bit more and seek the help. So those offices will get busier towards the end of the semester, trying to help students bring it home.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you. Alicia?
Well, thank you for everybody else's report. And as always, thank you for all the good work. We really couldn't do it without everybody. I did put in the board book, the community college data book, which if you have an opportunity, you might check out that website. There's a ton of information on there. I think it's a 330 some page report, so it's not, you know, easy reading. But it is a great way to look and see in terms of the different community colleges, what we're dealing with in terms of resources. It has, as I showed you, mill levies, indebtedness. It, you know, it goes from how much money do you spend on student services, instruction, administration. I mean, there's a lot of good information in there. And I'd like to look at, because I think that we can certainly learn some things from that. Now, just a cautionary tale, everybody turns that in from their own institution. And so not everybody understands the criteria the same in terms of how they interpret what they say to turn in may be a little bit different. So it's not completely apples to apples. So if you see some wide variations, for instance, if it says, what do you spend on academic services? Some people may view that as only faculty salaries, for instance. And some people may view that as faculty salaries plus whatever you spend, for instance, in your learning lab, on tutoring, those kinds of things, if that makes sense. So you may get some differences, but still, I think a really good book. Some of the tables that I provided you talk a little bit about mill levies, and you can see in there that this happens to be over 10 years. And we went up from 14 to 15, but have stayed the same since then. Obviously, it varies a little bit based on your valuation, but it's right there at 29.3. I think this year we're at 29.28 possibly. That's kind of close, I think, to where we're at. And so you can see that as you look at the different community colleges that are in there in terms of where we rank, we would rank 10th. There's 19 community colleges. Obviously, the amount of money that you get per mill varies a great deal from institution to institution. We would all like to be Johnson County. They get a little over $15 million per mill, but obviously the valuations up there a little bit differently, and obviously their expenses are a lot greater too, because it's such a large organization. If you just look at enrollment, if you look at that full-time equivalency, you can see that of the community colleges, the 3-year average, every community college is down except for one, which is Colby, which is up 1.1%, and they're pretty small out there. And so, you know, percentages, if you're talking small, then 20 students make a whole lot of difference. That's not an excuse, because we need to be up, but we're down 11.5, which is 7th best, I guess, in terms of being down. We're up since we're up over where we were in 2020. We're up over where we were in 2021. So we're up and we're trending up. We're still down hard from 2019 though, before COVID. So 2019 was our last high year. And I think that as you look across the board, you will find that at most all the institutions. You know, there's a lot of reasons for that nobody can really pinpoint. Is it the fact that we have declining population in Kansas? That's probably part of it, even though we should see a little bit of an incline in terms of seniors graduating, which is my understanding in 3 years or 2 years. 2, is that right, Adam?
I think it goes up and then it trends back down.
One of the things is that we don't address too often is that most of our students come in here with concurrent credit. We talked a little bit about this in cabinet. And so I would estimate that we probably get, every student here has 7 to 10 hours of concurrent credit. That is going to cause our enrollment, especially in what we considered non-tiered, so the general education courses, to go down, which it has. We have, and concurrent is great for students, and we definitely want to do that. And we do concurrent, of course, here in Bourbon County. But at the same time, that doesn't make up for all the students that come in here with current that might have been sitting in your Comp 1 class, or in your chemistry class, or in your physics class. And what we also find is a lot of the students that do concurrent, they don't come here first, they go on somewhere else. And so we do lose some credits. I think all of us do cumulatively lose some credits due to that across the state. That would be true everywhere. The other thing is that and it's something that we talk about and try to address, is that community, not just community colleges, but higher education in the last 20 years has lost credibility. It truly has. And I mean, it would be, I think, putting our head in the sand to say that it's any different than that. We are very fortunate to have really good, solid technical programs that do a great job in terms of getting the students the information they need to get certifications and licensures in those programs, and we've been pushing hard on that. And so that is honestly, our technical programs are what's carrying us in terms of the enrollment that we do have, if you look at increases. So, but that's just some information. Like I said, if you have an opportunity, please look at it. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer for you. Of course, there is a lag in that information. That's 2022. And so that is also fiscal year. So we're really talking the time all the information is reported and then they report back out. It's pretty much at least an 18-month lag on that. And a lot of times it's 2 year. I had sent you some information. We will continue to talk about walking trails. We visited in cabinet with Ralph Beecham, who, as you know, is our grant writer. And he has visited with some USDA folks who are very interested in the walking trail pond dam thing. And so we're hopeful that we would get something done along those lines. And so that's something that we're working on. Of course, you can see all the honor roll students that we have that we're very, very proud of. And Adam just pointed out to me that we've got some misspellings in that one little thing I showed you. So don't be taking a look at that. About did you know on tuition waiver. So we'll get that fixed tomorrow. So I apologize for that. And as you know, as it says there, we have put out quite a bit of advertising, but we are walking students across Horton to the 4-H building to eat three times a day. We want to thank the Bourbon County Fair Board, who's been great to work with in terms of setting that up so we can have the students eat over there while we remodel the kitchen portion. The timeline on that is the end of March, 1st of April, and it should be a pretty hard timeline because according to the foreman or the supervisor, they have another project that they need to get off to. And so we're hopeful. They started hard this morning, so they were in early and they were hitting it. So hopefully we won't have any hiccups there and we will get that taken care of and everybody back in our newly remodeled facility.
Now, who controls that? Is it the people who run the cafeteria, or is it done through the Fort Scott Community College? I mean,
The remodel?
yes,
It's us, but we in consultation
with
them in
food
terms of
service
what
people.
they need.
right.
And then, of course, the timeline, you know, we ask for timelines, but that's kind of the contract.
Right. Okay. All right.
But yeah, that's a good question. Remember that was paid for with COVID money, and we've received this year 100,000 from Great Western, Julie. And Great Western, remember we signed a 5-year contract. I thought it was for 250,000, but if they continue at the rate that they're giving it to us, then it's a $500,000.
I'll have to dig the contract back out, but I dug it out when we got the second 50,000 because I was like, I think they're giving us almost all of it up front. The money that
I
they,
thought it was each year for 5 years.
I don't know, I'll have to dig it back out and look at it.
I don't know either. I don't want to say for sure. That's what I had in mind. I I didn't think there was enough difference, you may recall, in a 10-year contract. For no more money than no additional money in terms of the help that they were giving us for the remodel. And so we went with the 5-year. And so. I will say we're a little worried about the floor that's in there. I'm not super happy with that. You guys might take a look at it. I don't know. It's not what I thought it was gonna be. We're gonna talk to the architects about it, but. Julie and Julie both have some concerns about it, I think, but.
What's the concern?
Well, it looks like it's really hard to clean. To me, and it's kind of got like, it's got divots in it. It's like what do you call it? It's textured enough that. It looks like a lot of stuff could get down in there and be hard to get out. And it's not sticking the way it's supposed to. There's still some pieces that want to pull up a little bit.
Is that in the kitchen or in the
Cafeteria, in the
cafeteria itself?
cafeteria, the dining part, I'm sorry, yes.
It's almost like the tile on the call looks porous.
Porous, that's the word I wanted. Thank you. It's porous and it just. And it's super light and it's already, I don't know, it worries me.
Is there any kind of a warranty or something gonna be on that?
Well, it's something we need to talk with them about.
Okay, okay.
You might also get the health inspector in to look at it before they have to certify that can open. Because they may nix you over that floor.
Yeah,
If
it
they
can't be
think you
cleaned
can clean it,
properly.
they don't think you can clean it.
Yeah.
They'll stop you from opening.
That's a good point. I didn't follow that. Thank you.
Neither.
I don't know if it's that bad, but I don't know. It just looks scary to me, like it's not gonna hold. And it's gonna be hard to clean. I think it really freaks out Brian, our cleaner. And for some reason, you couldn't clean it for how long, Julie?
I've heard anywhere from 3 months to 6 months, but they can't run the scrubber on it
Yeah, scrubber.
until
Well,
after that.
Yeah,
So it's a hand mop right now, which is part of the reason we're having problems with keeping it clean.
sounds like, yeah.
you guys that know more. Have a good look at it.
Oh,
So that might be an issue that we're gonna have to address with them.
I would say. So. Okay,
That's my report if there's no more questions.
okay. Anybody else? Questions? Comments? Short story. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Right.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Thank everybody.
You guys might look at that.
Or if I'd ask you,